Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reinventing Mental Health, where we are looking at shifting the paradigm of how we treat mental health and always looking for root causes and things we can use in order to feel better. Today, I have with us Chloe Parker, and she is the owner of Parker Pastures. She has a really amazing story of how she got into the work that she's doing. So, thank you so much, Chloe, for being here with us today. And I want to hear all about your journey.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, I think it's such an important conversation that we're going to have, and I'm excited.
So, how did you start down this path?
I have grown up in agriculture like my entire life. I'm pretty sure my parents told me my first word was cow. So I've always just had the love for the land and animals. When I was about 6 years old, my parents started Parker Pastures. It was super important to them to provide all of us with clean meat, but raised in a way that was actually healing to the land. I remember growing up, it was like we had chickens and we had pigs and we had cows and we had sheep and all of these different things. And I've always known that agriculture is super important and something I was called to do. So anyways, like growing up just around cows, we also had the meat company, Parker Pastures. And that was just an integral part of my life. But like most small town kids, I had to get the heck out of my very small town. And so I went and worked on some ranches elsewhere. And during that period, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. And so immediately came back, and I was like 19 at the time. And I was like, I don't know what else to do but help my family. And so just in all of that, I started realizing like I knew our food system was bad, but now I was like, oh wow, this is like really bad. This is affecting our physical health. This is affecting our mental health. Our soils are not healthy. We're pretty much being poisoned by our food. It just became really apparent that a huge reason why I'm here on earth is to provide people with clean food, because it's hard to find. Not all of us can grow it ourselves. Right before I turned 20, I took over Parker Pastures, and now it's just continuing on my mom's legacy, but also providing people with clean, nutrient dense food that was raised in a way that was actually healing to the environment and the land, so that we can all be fueled well with good, nutritious food to go do all of our own unique callings that are placed upon each of our lives.
So, would you consider what you're doing? Does it fall inside of that regenerative farming processes?
Yeah, there's definitely, I feel like it's starting to become such a buzzword. Simplest terms is like, yeah, regenerative, but like at the core, it's okay. So what does that mean? And it's really about like, how do we steward the land? Because if we take care of the land, it's going to take care of us. And the byproduct is super nutritious, good, clean food.
Mhm. So, what would you say for somebody who maybe doesn't understand how weak our food system is right now? What would you tell them regarding nutrient dense food and why this is so important?
Over the last 50 to 100 years, our food, take an apple, take a carrot, take any of those food items, have lost 50 to 70% of their nutritional quality.
Mhm.
So our soils, which have vitamins and minerals that either grass plants or vegetables or fruit take in and put into that food, has been depleted because we've used a ton of chemicals. And so what that means is our food is super deprived of nutrients, and we need food to survive. Also, 80% of diseases are related to food and lifestyle. Food has a big effect on our physical lives and just our physical well-being, but also our mind. It's essential that what we're eating is actually full of nutrition, but also in that same sense, it's clean. What we eat and what we eat, so like what a cow eats, does
Mhm.
matter.
Okay, so talk to us about that. What is a cow supposed to eat?
Yeah, I am a firm believer that we have a very broken food system. We don't have bad farmers and ranchers. And the system right now is programmed that 97% of all beef in the United States is fed grain at the end of its life. It's fed corn at the end of its life. And what that does is a cow is naturally not designed to eat corn. She has four stomachs to convert grass into meat or milk. And so what corn does is it completely screws up the omega-3, omega-6 ratio, creating a ton of omega-6s. Like it should be more of like a 1-to-1 ratio, like what our beef is. But if it's fed corn, it goes to a 1 to 15 to a 1 to 20. And then we're eating that, and like that, we're eating an animal that is already sick, eating something it's not supposed to eat. Unfortunately, in 2016, the USDA removed any regulation around that. So it's not regulated. So that term doesn't really mean anything. And so it's super important that like a ruminant animal, whether that's bison, sheep, cattle, like any of those meats, that they're lifetime grazed, that they're grass-fed, grass-finished, that they're literally eating grass because they're herbivores their entire life. And that just creates a healthy meat product, which is then rich in iron. It's rich in really good omega-3s. It doesn't have a bunch of omega-6s.
And there's such a big difference in the meat. We go to our local farmer's market, and there's a rancher here, and I love his beef. I absolutely, the flavor of it is so different than anything we've ever bought in the grocery store. When talking to him, all of his animals are pasture raised. They're not vaccinated. He's doing all of these regenerative farming processes. It's a totally different experience when you're eating food that is healthy and how it makes you feel when you eat it.
It's so true. Yeah, that sounds like a awesome person to have in your community. What we eat really does affect us. And sometimes we have to like take away ourselves from what we're currently eating of a lot of processed foods and then eat whole foods. I know every time that I start eating junk food because sometimes it's convenient or I just want sugar because it's addicting, I'm not going to feel as good or really good at all. And so just what you're saying is so important. And also going back to what we touched on earlier, the nutrition. One thing about beef, which I think is really cool, is it has like a 90% bioavailability. That means up to 90% of the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals in beef, our body can actually absorb versus like spinach. I think it's like 20 to 30%. Even most vitamins are like that. So like eating beef is like literally the best bang for the buck as far as nutritional quality because it is usually pretty nutrient dense and then your body can actually absorb what you're eating.
And that's part of why people that are on the carnivore diet feel so good and they have so much more energy.
Yep, exactly.
With your, I know you said you have cows. What other animals?
I've learned that I can't do everything well. So I work with the people who do things the best. And I've done the vetting, the questioning, the interrogation of just finding good, clean sources of meat. So there's a few select amazing places that I work with. So we do have pasture raised organic chicken, grass-fed and grass-finished bison, grass-fed and grass-finished lamb, and then we'll have Thanksgiving turkeys this fall.
So are you only local to your community or do you ship like nationwide?
Yeah, so Parker Pastures delivers anywhere in the United States. We deliver to all 50 states, parkerpastures.com. We have your 3 different options. If you just want like a package of steaks or just want individual cuts, that's a great option. We do have a box option, which right now we're offering free shipping and you get free ground beef or chicken for a year, plus 4 pounds of free ground beef. So that's great for if you want just a box of meat delivered each month. But my personal favorite and the rancher's secret is to buy in bulk because I think all of us have seen the cost of food, whether we're talking meat or anything, and it just keeps going up. And part of that is like good food does cost more. It's very backward system. But when you're buying in bulk, especially like a quarter half cow, is a great example, is like you'll walk in that same price per pound. It'll be usually the rule of thumb I use is quarter cow is great for like individual couple, half a cow for a family of 4, full cow is always going to be the best price per pound. And it's great for family of 4 plus, or if you want to split it with neighbors or just something like that. And there's a lot of things happening in the cattle industry right now. Like right now there's screwworm in Mexico, which is what is it? Pretty sure it's a flesh-eating parasite or something, but it's like really not good. So we've shut down all of the imports of cattle from Mexico to the United States, which we actually import like over 1 million cattle each year. So that's what I'm saying about all that is the cattle market right now is the highest it's ever been, which is why the price of beef keeps going up. Talk to like people who are a lot smarter than me about this, and it's unprecedented times. Like no one really knows. But estimating it might keep going up, which means price of beef. And so that's why like buying in bulk, kind of locking in that price, I highly encourage. And then you don't have to go to the grocery store, and it's very convenient. So parkerpastures.com. And then if you ever have questions, please shoot us an email because I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So I am going to ask questions about vaccinating animals. We have talked to a few different farmers who are telling us that people have started vaccinating cows against COVID, and that they're starting to see clotting in cow meat as we're purchasing steaks and things like that. Are you guys vaccinating your herds? Is this something that's going on pretty widespread? And is this something people need to be concerned with?
There's currently no mRNA vaccine for cattle. There is for pigs. It's an RNA vaccine. Most pork is given that. I've seen a lot of different things about mRNA vaccines in our food system. They're trying to do it to lettuce. Definitely all in the works. Currently, it's not being used. I will do everything in my power to make sure that never happens, because I most certainly don't want to eat that. That said, most vaccines that are given to cattle are not the mRNA vaccines, and they are like, this is a very touchy subject because I know there's a lot of differing opinions, but at the end of the day, there is some very deadly viruses and things that can go through herds of cattle. And then since most beef go to a feed yard and are fed corn, which is not natural, we just have created this system where most cattle are given vaccines, and I'm not anti-vaccines, because I've seen some awful things that because of vaccines, a whole entire herd of cattle didn't have to be killed. And we personally don't vaccinate. I do work with a few other ranches, and most cattle do get a vaccine at birth or something like that is against a few of the common diseases that cattle can get that are really not good. But yeah, as far as mRNA, that's not in beef right now. It is probably something we need to be aware of coming up. Based on research and things that I've done, I haven't seen anything about vaccines that has made me nervous. What makes me nervous is that most cattle get growth hormones. So they get implanted with growth hormones. All of us, especially us as women, they'll also get like antibiotics. Most of them get them in the feedlot. So most beef, those things I'm much more concerned about, which is why like buying meat from the grocery store is a total guessing game. I don't know. And like you were talking about earlier, going to a local rancher and asking those questions is super important, because otherwise I'll a little bit like throwing a dart out there and hoping you're getting good meat, but probably not.
Okay. Yeah, that is definitely a question that I think everybody needs to be asking, is what is in my food, right? And I did see there is a company that is trying to put vaccines in vegetables, and they're talking about lettuce and tomatoes and all of these other plants. And it was really interesting. Their website was up for a while, and it actually said that they were doing it so that they could combat vaccine hesitancy. And now all of a sudden their website is down.
Whoa.
I think they got some pushback.
Yep.
So what are some things, like we talked about cows and things that they're supposed to eat, and you said that those vaccines are not yet in cows. I am curious what these ranchers were talking about then, and what their concerns are as far as what is causing some of the clotting that they're seeing. What are you seeing inside of chickens? What are they feeding them that we need to be worried about and asking questions about when we're talking to ranchers and even our grocery stores and asking questions?
Yeah, chicken is honestly one of the ones that is absolutely disgusting. Beef is always better than processed food. Beef also, like cattle, have the ability to detox a little bit better than like pigs or something. And usually most cattle are fed like grass most of their life. So it's a little less risky is what I'm saying. Chicken, however, even though I know it's usually cheaper than beef, is a lot worse. First, how they process it is they dunk it in bleach at processing. And the crazy thing is, like, chicken can absorb up to 15% of that water. Most of them are like, they clean them in bleach because they're dirty animals, like how they're raised. And so that's how they disinfect them. And then I was at the store the other day, just I like to look at meat packages just to see, and like it's listed in most chicken, you'll see it's like just in tiny little writing. This one said up to 3% retained water. And so is that retained water in that chicken, that A, you're paying for water, not for chicken, and B, what's in that water? Because it's probably not plain water. So that's the first concern about chicken is you want to make sure that it's not bleached at processing.
They have to label that. Have to put on a label, there's bleach in your food.
The labels and the lies in our food system are really bad. There's so many loopholes that people can get by with. So bleach, that's something to be concerned about. Also, I think it's 99% of chickens, maybe either 99 or 97% of pork never see the light of day. Like they are in confined buildings. We have made the genetics of chickens so that they grow from like a hatched egg to ready to be processed in 6 to 8 weeks. And if they don't get harvest on time, they will literally die of obesity and not being able to breathe because of how fast they grow. And then we're eating that. And that to me is like just very concerning. And usually what chickens are, they're usually are fed like grain, which is not necessarily always bad, but usually the grain they are fed is like not organic. So it's sprayed heavily with pesticides. They're in confinement and they're just like in an environment that is like not natural or good for the animal and then not us to eat it. So those are the things top of mind when it comes to chicken that concern me and things I'm like, I don't want to eat that. So I rarely eat chicken just because I prefer beef. I just know it's cleaner and better. But I found a great option for chicken. And you can tell one thing I look for is what does the color look like? Whether we're talking beef chicken of like beef at the store, it'll usually look like bright red versus actual beef looks ruby red. That's what it should be. Chicken at the store, super white. Like it's just like white. It doesn't really have any color versus like the pasture raised chicken that Parker Pastures has is it has color. I don't know. It's not like exactly pink. I'm trying to figure out the best color description, but there's color to it. So it just showcases that those animals, the chickens were eating like bugs and they were out roaming in pasture. They were like actually using their muscles. And then pork, same as chicken, most of it's raised in confinement, most of it's not very good. Pork also has the highest parasites in it compared to any other meat. And as far as eating pork, it's very important that it's like pasture raised and just not in confinement. I've just seen some different videos of like literal parasites coming out, like little worms coming out of pork cuts. And so pork and chicken, I would be most like aware of where you're getting it from, just because those ones are a little more of a can be an unclean meat. And then beef, grass fed and grass finished is ideal. But if you have to do a little something different, that one is a little less risky at the current moment.
Okay. So you're focused mostly on meats. So what would you tell somebody regarding fruits and vegetables? I know even with the fruits and vegetables, if I purchase it at the farmer's market, it's totally different than anything I've ever picked up in the grocery store. And I actually prefer to go in my backyard and pick my tomatoes or my green peppers and my berries because the flavor difference is amazing.
Totally. I 100% agree with you of like farmer's market, growing it yourself. Those are like A, usually the safer option, and B, just like you're saying, like so much more flavorful. And that just showcases the nutrients. Like flavor and nutrients are directly tied together. So usually if something's super flavorful and tastes like an actual food product, not like cardboard, it's going to have a lot of nutrition. And so I agree. Local farmers markets, finding like joining a CSA in your area, growing it yourself, all of those are going to be great options. And it's really easy to do. It's just instead of going to the grocery store, we just go to a different place.
Yeah. And we just built it into our schedule. Like we know that the farmer's market is on Tuesday. So that is our day of making sure that we do all of our grocery shopping.
That's awesome. I love.
Okay. So you said your website, you'll ship nationwide. And you said that there are currently some specials as far as like doing the half cow and the quarter cow, and that decreases the cost per pound. I did hear a video, I feel like recently, where somebody was talking about there's actually a shortage of cows. And you were just talking about not bringing cows up from Mexico because of that disease that they have. What is the United States currently doing? What are ranchers doing to try to mediate that gap in the shortage of meat right now?
It's very interesting times because we do have the lowest cattle inventory we've had since the 70s. So there's less cows than there used to be, which has partially increased the cattle market, and then this disease and probably some other variables. I look at it from two sides. One side is less than 2% of our population grows food. The average age of the American farmer or rancher is over 60 years old, and we don't have a lot of younger people, my generation, coming into agriculture, and we all need to eat. We also lose about 78 farms and ranches every day. Either that's people going out of business, that's land being developed. And so based on those statistics, it's like it is more essential and important than ever for the small family American farms and ranches to be supported, to like buy local, buy directly from them, because there's just a lot of things trying to hinder that. The other side is the kind of like day-to-day life I live, which is people who, like me, are in agriculture, and they really love the land. They really care for it. They really just want to steward it well. They want this to continue on for generations. They want it to be in the family. And I think there's starting to be more and more talk about regenerative agriculture and how do we do things different, and like how do we utilize technology. There's like multiple people I've talked to in this last year, they're using, it's called virtual fence. So we put like this little essentially necklace collar around a cow, and then you can keep them moving across a landscape using this virtual fence, which is like building a pasture with your phone. And so there's all these cool things that I'm like very hopeful and excited for about agriculture, but also I think it's literally essential and vital that we keep supporting small family farms and ranches, because those are who grow our food. And if they're not there to grow our food, big corporations will, China will, or the outcome is not great.
So I also remember, and I'm going to totally misquote this, okay? Because the video I watched, I'm not sure that I fully understood it. But the person was talking about the fact that we can raise an animal in the United States, but then for some reason, instead of processing the animal in the United States, we're sending it to 2 other countries before it ever comes back in a package.
Yeah, I know that does. I think that definitely happens with food in America. I think it happens, I want to say like onions and garlic. A lot of times with meat is what happens is like America actually imports a bunch of beef from South America, Australia. Those are the main ones. It is like fully processed, broken down, like cut into steaks, ground beef, all of that. It can be labeled product of the United States. And so that's one thing that just what you mentioned probably is addressing. And then there is definitely just the distance that our food travels before it gets to us is actually like insane.
Yeah, he was talking about specifically pork and the fact that he has seen it actually go to China and to countries like Thailand and then be sent back. And it just doesn't make any sense. Like, why all of this extra time and travel for meat in order for it to come back and be in our grocery store shelves?
That's crazy. I'm going to have to research this now.
And then the conversation about vegetables, like you're saying that it's happening with garlic and stuff like that. I don't remember where we were, but we ordered salads because we were like, I don't want any of the seed oils, like any of those things. And we were at an event, but we got tomatoes on our salads and we all spit them out because they tasted like plastic.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that seems to be happening. Like, even when I can't go to the farmer's market to pick up vegetables, sometimes I go to the grocery store and I'm picking up something that's supposed to be organic, because if I have to do it, I want to do an organic product. But even some of those products, I pick them up and I'm like, there's no flavor. It tastes so gross.
Yep. No, I totally know what you're talking about. And it's just like the food that we're eating, and it looks like it's all the things that it should be. And then it's like, in reality, the taste of it shows that it's not.
And then we have kids that they're picky eaters, but are they actually picky eaters, or have they identified these foods don't taste like real foods and I don't want them?
Yep.
Okay. We'll share all of your contact information, and we want to make sure, that people are reaching out to you guys. Guys, food is so important. And the things that we put into our body not only affect our physical health, but they have a direct impact on our mental health. There is study after study that indicate that eating whole foods that are nutrient dense have the biggest impact on our mental and physical health. And that's really what has been driving things like the keto diet, the paleo diet, and the carnivore diet. Even big hospitals and colleges like Harvard and Yale have studies that support how vital it is that the foods we feed ourselves are healthy and nutrient dense. So thank you so much, Chloe, for coming on today and talking to us about your farm and the food that is available to our viewers. Viewers, please make sure that you reach out, bring these healthy foods into your home, and help watch your family to transform into healthier, happier individuals. And please make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you know when our next video is available.